Welcome back to the Silent Husband Club. We know it's been a while since our last story. Thank you for your patience. From now on, we'll do our best to bring you a new story every single day. What if the perfect life you built, the home, the marriage, the trust, was nothing but a mask hiding betrayal? What if every smile from the woman you loved concealed a lie so sharp it could cut your soul before you even realized it bled? Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. It helps our channel grow and ensures you never miss the next story. From the outside, my life must have looked flawless, a quiet masterpiece. A comfortable house in the suburbs of Ashford, near Boston. A good remote job as an IT engineer. And, of course, a wife everyone envied me for. Her name was Evelyn. She was the kind of woman most men only dream about when they speak of the one. Smart, graceful, beautiful in that effortless way that never looked forced. She worked long shifts as a resident doctor at the local clinic, yet somehow always found the strength to smile at me, to laugh at my jokes, to kiss me softly before leaving for work. For years, I believed she was my home. My anchor. My safe place. But lately, something had changed, something subtle, almost invisible, like the faint breeze before a storm. I can't pinpoint the exact moment it began, but I felt it. Not in words, not in actions, just in the air between us. She came home later than usual, always with a casual excuse. I'm covering a shift for a colleague, don't wait up. I kissed her on the forehead, wished her a good night. But the moment she stepped through the door again, long past midnight, I noticed her hair. It smelled different. Not the lavender scent I knew so well, something floral, unfamiliar. New shampoo? I asked, as if it were nothing. Oh, yeah, she replied too quickly. It was on sale. I didn't say anything. Once was nothing. Once could be overlooked. But it didn't stop at once. She began going out more often, meeting old friends from medical school. At least that's what she said. Evelyn was always sociable, so I had no reason to doubt her. But these evenings grew more frequent. Girls' night at Monica's, don't wait up, she'd say, kissing me on the cheek before rushing out. I told myself to trust her. Or maybe I wanted to. Still, something scratched at my chest, an unease that wouldn't leave me alone. Her phone was never left lying around anymore, not on the kitchen counter, not on the nightstand. It was always with her, the screen turned face down. Just work stuff, she'd murmur if I asked. The way she flipped the phone the second I entered the room, it gnawed at me. This wasn't jealousy. I had never been the jealous type. No, what I felt was deeper, an unrest that sat heavy in my chest, an instinct I couldn't silence. One evening, while she showered, her phone buzzed on the bathroom counter. I hadn't planned to look. I swear I hadn't. But curiosity whispered, a voice dark and irresistible, just one glance. The message was short. From an unknown number. Party starts soon. Where are you? My heart began to pound. A party? But she told me she was meeting Monica for coffee. My hand trembled as I placed the phone back exactly where it had been. It's nothing, I told myself. Don't overthink. But the seed of doubt had been planted. And once planted, doubt grows fast. The following days were a blur of polite smiles and shallow conversations. Evelyn laughed louder than usual at things that weren't funny. Her hugs felt quicker, cooler. At night, I lay awake listening to the ceiling fans hum. All beside me she scrolled endlessly through her phone, her face lit by the cold glow of the screen. What's so interesting? I asked one night, as casually as I could manage, though my eyes were sharp. Her thumb hesitated for a second before she locked the phone and set it aside. Just Instagram, she whispered, turning to rest her head against me. But the warmth between us was gone. It had been replaced by something colder. Something foreign. I tried to dismiss it, but deep down, I already knew. Something was wrong. It was on a Friday night when my doubts turned into something darker. Evelyn said she was going out with friends again, kissed me quickly, told me not to wait. But there was a flicker in her eyes, too brief, too fragile, that betrayed her words. I hadn't planned to follow her. Really, I hadn't. But as the hours passed, the unease became unbearable. My mind raced. My heart pounded. Just a short drive, I told myself. Fresh air. Clear my head. Yet my subconscious had already decided. Without even realizing, I drove toward the address Evelyn had mentioned earlier that week, Monica's place. The street was empty, the house dark. No music. No laughter. No sign of a girl's night. My pulse hammered. Maybe she was somewhere else, I told myself. Maybe I misunderstood. But then, a few blocks away, I saw the cars. Parked in clusters. Loud music bleeding faintly into the night. I slowed down, and that's when I saw her. Evelyn, stepping out of a black SUV, laughing, radiant in a way she hadn't been with me for a long time. Beside her stood a man I had never seen before, tall, confident, with a smile that made her glow. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles whitened. I could have confronted her then. Demanded answers. But I wasn't a fool. Confrontation without proof would only end one way, me as the paranoid husband, her as the wronged angel. Not yet, I told myself. Not like this. Something cold spread through me that night. Not rage. Not despair. Something sharper. Calculation. Clarity. If Evelyn was hiding a world from me, I would uncover it. And when the truth came out, it would strike her without warning. By the time I drove home, my mind was clearer than it had been in weeks. The doubts were gone. Now, there was only a plan. The night after I saw Evelyn with that man, sleep never came. I lay there in the darkness, her steady breathing beside me, pretending nothing had changed while inside me something fundamental had shattered. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her laugh, the tilt of her head, the way her body leaned toward his as if she belonged to him. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't innocent. And it wasn't something I could ignore anymore. But one thing I knew for certain, I couldn't confront her without proof. Proof she couldn't twist. Proof she couldn't erase. In my work as an IT engineer, I'd learned a simple truth: without evidence, you have nothing. That night, I made a decision. If Evelyn wanted to live a double life, then I would watch it unfold in silence. And when the moment came, I would have everything I needed. The next morning, I rose earlier than usual. She stirred in bed, murmured, "You're up early," and I kissed her forehead with a smile that felt heavier than iron. Busy day, I told her, though my chest burned with something else entirely. She didn't notice. Or maybe she didn't care. By noon, I was at my desk, not writing code, but descending into the world of surveillance software. Encrypted forums, hidden websites, tools designed for parents, for employers, for anyone who wanted to see without being seen. My stomach churned as I read reviews, weighed options, but my hands kept moving. I told myself I wasn't breaking trust, I was simply exposing the truth. And truth has no guilt. That evening, opportunity came easily. Evelyn was in the shower, steam clouding the bathroom mirror, her phone on the counter, face down as always. My heart thundered, my hands ice cold. 10 seconds, I whispered to myself. That's all it would take. I unlocked her phone. God, how easy it was, and within moments the program was installed. Full access. Messages, calls, GPS data, all flowing quietly into my own devices. By the time she stepped out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, humming a tune I didn't recognize, I was back on the couch with my laptop, sipping coffee like any other night. "Long day?" she asked playfully. "Yeah," I said, smiling weakly. But inside me, the storm was already raging. Hours passed before the first notification arrived. A vibration, a ping, her phone, speaking through mine. I opened the feed, my throat tightening. A message from a name I recognized, Josh Carter. "Yesterday was amazing. Can't wait to see you again," winking face. The blood drained from my face. Josh. I'd seen his face once or twice on her social media, a younger guy, athletic, smug in every picture. Now, he wasn't just a face on a screen. He was the man from the SUV. The man she laughed with. The messages between them weren't obscene, not yet. They didn't need to be. Their words were soft, suggestive, laced with inside jokes and promises only lovers share. To anyone else, it would look harmless. To me, it was a dagger. I wanted to storm into the bedroom, to throw the phone at her feet, to demand an explanation. But I held myself back. Not enough. Not yet. If I confronted her now, she'd deny it, twist it, call me paranoid. I needed more. The GPS feed blinked to life. She had told me she was meeting Monica again that night, but the dot on the map was nowhere near Monica's house. Instead, it pulsed over another address, one I didn't recognize at first. A quick search confirmed it. Josh Carter's apartment. My jaw tightened, my hands trembling as I closed the screen. The evidence was there. I had what I needed. But still, I wanted more. I needed to see it with my own eyes. The following days, I became something I had never imagined, a shadow in my own marriage. Evelyn went about her life as if nothing had changed, smiling, chatting, touching my arm with the same tenderness she always had. But her phone betrayed her. The messages, the locations, the late nights, they told me the story she never would. I grew quiet, distant. She didn't ask why. Or maybe she didn't want to hear the answer. Twice that week, I drove past Josh's apartment. Once during the day, once at night. By day, it was ordinary students kicking a ball in the yard, cars parked sloppily in the lot. By night, it became something else entirely. Music pulsed from behind the windows, neon lights flickered through the curtains, and strangers came and went in waves. And each time, I saw her there. Evelyn. My wife. Laughing, touching, leaning close to him as if I didn't exist. I sat in the shadows, camera in hand, the glow of the streetlight dim over the windshield. Click. A photo here, another there. Blurry, grainy, but undeniable. Her smile wasn't mine anymore. Her warmth wasn't mine. It belonged to him. And I captured every stolen moment, storing them away like bullets in a chamber. Every night, I added to the collection. Screenshots of her chats. GPS records. Pictures taken from the shadows. I built a timeline, a file so complete no denial could survive it. I wasn't Richard Hale, the husband, anymore. I had become something else. Something colder. A collector of truth. A hunter waiting for the perfect strike. And I knew one thing, the strike was coming. The more I watched, the less I spoke. I became a ghost in my own home, sitting across from Evelyn at dinner, nodding at her stories, smiling when she expected me to smile. But every word she spoke tasted like ash in my mouth, because I knew where she had been, who she had laughed with, whose arms she had fallen into. She thought she was clever, thought she could juggle two lives without consequence. But with each message, each GPS pin, each photograph I collected, I felt myself harden into something sharper than anger. This wasn't rage anymore. This was purpose. At night, when she scrolled through her phone under the blanket of our bed, I pretended to sleep. Her face was lit blue by the glow of the screen, her lips curling into secretive smiles she never gave me anymore. I studied her silhouette, memorizing every detail, and I thought, you don't even know I can see your world unfolding in real time. Every vibration of her phone echoed in my chest like a drum. And still, I said nothing. The silence became my weapon. But watching from afar wasn't enough. I needed the kind of proof that no lie could smother. Screenshots and grainy photos could be explained away, twisted into misunderstandings. What I needed was a stage, a moment she couldn't escape. And as the days passed, I began to weave the idea together like a web. A confrontation, yes, but not a private one. Evelyn was too skilled at playing the part of the wounded wife. Alone, she'd spin her lies, cry her tears, and turn me into the villain. No, this had to happen in front of witnesses. Her mask had to shatter in the light of everyone else's eyes. I began preparing. Quietly, carefully. I let her believe I was still the trusting husband, still too blinded by love to notice. But behind that mask, I was working. I exported chat logs, stitched together timelines, cropped photographs until they were undeniable. I learned the layout of Josh Carter's building, memorized exits, entrances, even the position of the TV in his living room. Every night, while she thought I was buried in code for work, I was building something far more dangerous, her downfall. And then, fate gave me the push I didn't even know I was waiting for. A message appeared on my phone, not from Evelyn, not from Josh, but from Monica, her so-called best friend. "Can we talk?" That's all it said. I met her the next day in a cafe at the edge of town. She was nervous, stirring her coffee without drinking it, avoiding my eyes. "I don't know how to start," she whispered. My voice came out steady, almost too steady. "Just say it." She looked up, guilt etched across her face. "She hasn't been with me, Richard. Those nights she said she was at my place, she was with him. With Josh." The words hung between us, heavy and cruel, though they were only confirmation of what I already knew. Still, hearing them aloud from someone else made my chest ache in a way no GPS pin ever had. I closed my eyes for a moment, nodded slowly. "I needed to hear it," I said quietly. Monica's hands trembled as she set down her spoon. "I covered for her too long. I can't do it anymore. I'm sorry." I almost pitied her, dragged into Evelyn's web of lies, forced to become her accomplice. But pity was a luxury I didn't have. I rose from the table, thanked her, and walked out with my plan no longer just an idea. It was a blueprint. I had the files, the photos, the chats. Now I had a witness. All I needed was the stage. And as if on cue, the invitation surfaced. Josh was hosting another of his infamous parties, the kind Evelyn could never resist. Neon lights, loud music, the kind of chaos where people believed they were untouchable. Perfect. That was where the mask would fall. That was where Evelyn's lies would choke her in front of everyone. I wouldn't scream, I wouldn't fight. I'd let the truth do it for me. I had already chosen my role. Not the jealous husband. Not the fool. I would be the judge, the witness, and the executioner. And she would never see it coming. The night of Josh Carter's party came like the inevitable storm I had been preparing for. I had gone over the plan in my head so many times it felt rehearsed, like a play where every actor already knew their role except, of course, Evelyn. She would be the only one caught unprepared. I dressed simply, jeans, a plain shirt, nothing that would draw attention. I wasn't there to be noticed, I was there to deliver the truth. In my pocket was a small USB drive, no larger than my thumb, but heavier than anything I'd ever carried. On it were weeks of pain, sleepless nights, and the quiet betrayal of a marriage that had rotted from within. When I arrived, the house was already alive with sound. Music throbbed through the walls, lights flashed against windows, and voices spilled out into the street. I slipped inside and noticed, just another face in the crowd. My eyes scanned the room with clinical precision, memorizing exits, gauging the positions of the speakers, and finally settling on the large television mounted on the wall above the dance floor. That would be my stage. That would be where her mask was ripped away. And then I saw her. Evelyn stood in the kitchen, glass in hand, her laughter bright and free, as if the world were perfect. Next to her was Josh, leaning close, his hand brushing against hers, his body language speaking volumes no message could hide. Watching them was like being stabbed in the chest, and yet, in that moment, I felt nothing but cold clarity. The man I had been, the trusting husband, the quiet believer in love, was gone. I was here now as something else, someone forged in silence and betrayal. Daniel and Patrick, the two friends I had confided in, were already there, blending into the crowd, phones ready. They weren't just friends tonight, they were witnesses. I had told them, I don't want to scream at her, I don't want to throw a glass or cause a fight. I want her to see what she's done. I want her to watch her lies burn. And they had nodded, no questions asked. Tonight, they would capture everything. The moment came when the crowd was at its peak, when the music was loud, the drinks flowing, and the laughter deafening. I slipped to the corner where the media station sat, unremarkable, unnoticed. My hands were steady as I plugged in the USB and connected it through my phone. The screen flickered once, then again, and the music cut off abruptly. Confused murmurs rippled through the room as the bass fell silent, replaced by the quiet hum of expectation. Heads turned toward the glowing television. At first, the images were innocent Evelyn and Josh at a party, smiling, arms too close. A ripple of recognition spread across the crowd. "Is that Evelyn?" someone whispered. Then came the messages, projected in stark clarity. "Can't wait to see you again," winking face, followed by "I'll tell him I'm at Monica's." The room grew colder, the air heavier. The laughter died. Then, finally, the grainy videos, Evelyn slipping into Josh's apartment at night, their hands brushing, their lips meeting in the shadows. It was undeniable. It was over. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then came the voices, sharp, cutting. "She's married, isn't she? Oh my God, that's his wife." Evelyn froze where she stood, her glass slipping from her hand and shattering against the floor. Her face drained of color, her eyes wide in horror as her truth was exposed to everyone. Josh cursed, stepping forward, trying to speak, but the noise of whispers and gasps drowned him out. I stepped from the crowd then, my eyes locked on hers. The sea of faces parted, and for a moment, it was just us. Husband and wife. Betrayer and betrayed. "How long, Evelyn?" My voice was calm, quieter than the murmurs, but it sliced through the room like a blade. "How long have you been lying to me?" She opened her mouth, but no words came. Only tears, spilling down her cheeks. "I trusted you," I whispered, though every person in the room could hear. "I believed every smile, every kiss, every lie you dressed as love. But you were never mine. You were only a performance." She shook her head, trembling, but the evidence still glowed behind me, undeniable, merciless. The audience was no longer hers. She had lost them all. Josh tried to shout, tried to regain control, but no one listened. They only stared at her, at the woman who had lived a lie so carefully, only to have it torn apart in one brutal instant. I turned my back to her then, walking toward the door, my voice one final dagger. It's over, Evelyn. Enjoy your new life, you've earned it. And I left her there, shattered, drowning in shame, as the party crumbled into whispers and silence behind me. That night, Evelyn didn't come home until dawn. I didn't wait for her, didn't sit by the window like I might have once. I had nothing left to say. When I finally saw her again, she looked like a ghost of herself, eyes red, hands trembling, her voice breaking when she tried to speak. Richard, please. I can explain, but I walked past her in silence. There was nothing she could explain. The entire room had seen what I had seen for weeks. There was no undoing it. The days that followed were a slow implosion of her world. Her phone never stopped buzzing, but it wasn't Josh anymore. It was colleagues, friends, even family, each message heavier than the last. Is it true? How could you? Why would you do this? She stopped replying after the first few hours. Every notification became another nail in the coffin she had built for herself. One morning, a letter arrived from the hospital where she worked. A meeting with the director. She walked into that building with her head lowered, her white coat folded over her arm, and came out without it. By the end of that day, she no longer had a job. The woman who had once been admired by patients and colleagues alike now walked invisible through the streets, her name whispered like a curse. Josh Carter's downfall was just as brutal, though in a different way. On campus, whispers followed him everywhere. Once the golden boy of his team, the life of every party, he became a walking scandal. His coach suspended him. Sponsors pulled out. The teammates who once cheered his name now treated him like a liability. How does it feel to ruin a marriage? Someone sneered at him in the locker room. He had no answer. Even Evelyn, desperate and clinging, stopped taking his calls. The man who had been her escape was now drowning right alongside her. And me? I said nothing. I didn't need to. The world did the punishing for me. I carried no rage, no fury anymore, only silence. Silence was my justice, my final verdict. Weeks passed, and when the papers came, I signed them without hesitation. Divorce. Clean. Final. When she held them in her hands, her tears wetting the ink of my signature, she whispered, "Please, Richard, don't do this. We can fix it." But there was nothing left to fix. Some things, once broken, can never be put back together. I left her there with her papers and her tears, and I walked into a life that was finally mine again. Evelyn's world shrank to nothing. Friends gone. Career gone. Even Monica stopped answering her calls, too tired of covering for a woman who had destroyed everything herself. Evelyn spent her days alone in that house, the same house that had once been filled with laughter and warmth. Now it was a tomb, and she was trapped inside it. Meanwhile, I moved into a smaller apartment downtown, overlooking the Boston skyline. The silence there didn't feel suffocating anymore. It felt like freedom. I poured coffee in the mornings without fear of lies waiting at the table. I laughed with Daniel and Patrick over beers, rediscovering the friends I had once neglected. Slowly, the weight lifted. I hadn't just lost a wife, I had lost an illusion. And in its place, I had found clarity. Still, the day came when I had to see her one last time. The final meeting with the lawyers. The exchange of keys. The last signature. She sat across from me in the sterile office, paler than I had ever seen her, eyes hollow yet still clinging to some last fragment of hope. "Richard," she whispered, her voice trembling like a child's. but I didn't answer. I only signed the papers, steady and unshaken, because this ending had been written long ago. She tried again, her voice breaking. "I'm sorry. I really am." I looked at her, at the woman I had once believed was my home, and felt nothing. No anger. No love. Only peace. "I know," I said softly. "But it doesn't change anything." And with that, I stood, turned my back, and left her behind for good. The finality of it all settled in on a quiet morning, 2 months after the night everything came crashing down. I stood by the wide window of my new apartment, high above the city, the early light of Boston spilling across the skyline in hues of gold. The air felt different here, cleaner, sharper, free of the weight I had carried for too long. There were no shadows hiding in the corners, no faint trace of Evelyn's perfume lingering in the walls, no reminders of whispered lies. For the first time in years, I could breathe deeply without the suffocating grip of doubt tightening my chest. I had lost so much: a house, a marriage, a life I thought was real, but in return, I had gained something far greater: clarity, peace, and myself. Evelyn's world, I knew, had only grown smaller since we last met. She was no longer Dr. Hale at the clinic. Her name was a stain, whispered in corners and avoided by employers. Applications returned unanswered, interviews cut short with polite excuses. Friends, once eager to surround her, now avoided her calls. Even Monica, her most loyal defender, finally let go, leaving Evelyn stranded in the ruins she had created with her own hands. She lived in that empty house alone, walls echoing with silence, every room a reminder of what she had destroyed. I didn't need to see it to know how it felt. I had lived in that silence once myself. But the difference was, mine had become freedom. Hers had become a prison. As for Josh Carter, his meteoric fall was complete. Once the life of every party, the star athlete, the man who thought he could have anything he wanted, he now walked across campus with his head lowered, every glance a dagger, every whisper a reminder of his disgrace. His team cut him loose, his sponsors vanished, his future gone before it even began. Even Evelyn, who had once looked at him as if he were her escape, refused to answer his calls anymore. They had burned together, and when the flames died, they were nothing but ash, left to choke on the smoke of their own choices. I often wondered if Evelyn replayed that night in her head, the night her mask was ripped away in front of everyone, the night she saw in my eyes not fury, not jealousy, but something far colder, the absence of love. I think she must. Because in the end, it wasn't the evidence that destroyed her. It wasn't even Josh. It was the silence. My silence. The silence of a man who had once given her everything, and who now gave her nothing at all. The day the divorce became official, the papers signed and sealed, I didn't feel triumph or revenge. I felt release. When I stepped out of that sterile office building, the world seemed brighter, the air lighter. I walked down the street not as a betrayed husband, not as a broken man, but as someone reborn. I carried no photographs, no memories, no bitterness. Just myself. And that was enough. That evening, I stood again by the window, watching the city come alive beneath me. Cars streaming through streets, lights flickering in apartment windows, strangers moving through their lives with secrets of their own. And I thought of Evelyn not with anger, not even with sorrow, but with a strange kind of finality. She was a chapter closed, a story ended. Her lies no longer lived in me. They belonged only to her. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for someone to come home. I wasn't waiting for laughter that wasn't real or for kisses that meant nothing. For the first time, the silence around me wasn't emptiness, it was peace. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, shocked you, or simply made you think, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment, your thoughts, your story, your truth. Subscribe for more raw, real, and unforgettable confessions. And if this story made you feel seen, share it. Someone else might need to hear it too. You're not alone here. This channel is a safe space for those who've been betrayed, broken, and rebuilt.